Parade, starring Frank Sinatra.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
And now, smile a while with Lorenzo Jones and his wife, Belle.
Here's the Manhattan merry-go-round that brings you the bright side of life, that whirls you in music to all the big night spots of New York town, to hear the top songs of the week sung so clearly you can understand every word and sing them yourself.
This is the golden age of radio. I'm Dick Bertel, and tonight we'll take you on another audio excursion back to radio's formative years. You'll hear the programs that made the era golden, and meet people who made those broadcasts a reality.
The Golden Age of Radio, brought to you by Burritt Mutual Savings Bank, serving Central Connecticut since 1889. And now your host, Dick Bertel.
Good evening, and with me once again is the man who really makes the program possible with his fabulous collection of recordings, Ed Corcoran.
Well, thank you, Dick. That's very nice words.
Ed, you know, I'm going to let you introduce our guest tonight because you had the opportunity to meet him prior to the show.
Maybe I can start off by asking what your license number is there, Mr.
137596.
What does that mean to you, Dick? None other than Sam Spade, alias Howard Duff. Sam Spade and many other famous roles in both radio, television, movies, and theater, Dick. So we got another biggie here tonight.
We certainly have. Howard, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the golden age of radio and to put your career in perspective, because you are known today by current-day audiences on television and motion pictures, on the stage. You're one of the few who had a major career in radio, but has gone on to even more exciting things.
You mean I've survived?
In a very real sense, yes. But let's talk about you, because your career started, as far as the American audience is concerned, after the war was over. You didn't have any prior experience, prior to World War II, I'm talking about, did you? Radio experience.
Radio experience?
Yeah.
Oh, heavens, yes.
You did?
I did radio. Not that anybody was, would remember it at all, but I made my living, such as it was, as a radio actor in Los Angeles. Before that, I was an announcer in San Francisco. Before that, I was in the theater in Seattle, which is my hometown, and then I did radio jobs there because the theater didn't pay us any money, so you had to hustle around for a buck wherever you could get one.
Sure.
So I've done everything you can think of in radio, and then about 1937, I went to San Francisco. Just schlepped around trying to get a job. This is still the Depression, and it was tough. I somehow survived, and I did a newscast for a station called G.A.O.R-WTIC. I remember I ended up at KFRC, and then we started a little show called The Phantom Pilot.
Ah, yes,
there.
I do want to hear about The Phantom Pilot.
What can I tell you?
A children's show, 5 days a week, 15 minutes in length. That's all I know.
That was about it, yeah. Well, it was the Lone Ranger in an airplane. This guy flew all over the world, and Skyball, that was his means of transportation.
This sounds like the forerunner to Captain Midnight. Do you remember that series by any chance?
Yeah, well, that was the competition. We never listened to the competition.
How long was the Phantom Pilot on the air, or in the air?
About 2.5 years, as I remember. Mm-hmm. Then when I went off, then I starved for a little while, and Elliot Lewis helped me, and finally I was able to crack this magic circle of radio actors. They were rather tight, kind of...
It was tight.
Shall we say snobbish? I don't know.
Yeah.
And this is still prior to the Second World War, huh?
This is prior to World War Deuce, yeah.
Yeah, and there is this nucleus of actors on the West Coast that do 98% of the work.
I would say roughly about the Magic 20, what was it, or something like that, who did most of the work.
Yeah, like Hans Conried and William Conrad.
Oh, the whole bunch of guys. Frank Nelson.
Oh, yes.
Lou Merrill, Elliot Lewis, Kathy Lewis, who was then his wife. And who else? Oh, I don't know. You name them.
But again, they had an East Coast group just like that. These inns, they got all the work, and the outs didn't get any work. And you were fortunate enough to be in the in group in the Los Angeles area then, huh?
Yeah.
But you had no starring role up to this point.
Oh, no. I was just, a
journeyman actor.
Arch Obler actually was responsible for my getting any kind of recognition because he was doing the really good radio drama at that time, and I got my first really showy good parts in that, and that's when I started to take off a little bit. And just as I started to take off, along came what?
The old
World War II.
Well, that armed forces bit, at that time, when people went into the service, they never went into the specialty they were familiar with. Did that happen to you? Did you go into radio right away?
Heavens, no.
You were dog-faced something first?
I had no skills of any kind, and I was put in the infantry, which was the fate of many people. And the only reason I didn't end up in the infantry was because somebody came around and said they wanted to have a division radio program, and I was the only one they knew of that had done anything in radio. And of course, all I'd ever been was a radio actor and an announcer. Never done any writing, but this I did. But it eventually got me into the Post Public Relations Office, which got me out of the infantry, and we did a weekly show from Fort Lewis.
It was a Howard Day, wasn't it?
And then I was back in the infantry again, and at Salina, Kansas, of all places, and I got orders to come to Hollywood. Are you ready for this? For the Armed Forces Radio Service. It was the talk of the whole division. This dumb fool is going to Hollywood.
And what was it like in the Armed Forces? This was a pioneering effort in those days.
The Armed Forces Radio Service?
Yes, that part of your career, yes.
Well, actually, they didn't really know what to do with people like myself, who actually, I was not a writer, per se. I was not, a producer. I was not a director. So Elliot Lewis and myself and Alan Hewitt and a couple of other people were put in charge of, Elliot and I originally, we recorded regular commercial programs off the air, and then we had to reassemble them because of censorship reasons, in wartime, where certain things were verboten. And we reproduced them, as a matter of fact, and that was our job. I can't remember what we called ourselves. It was a separate department. We turned out an awful lot of programs a week, and then I had a show that I did with Peter Lorre, called Mystery Theater. When I had Peter come on, I used to write his stuff that he introduced the various mystery shows like Suspense or whatever it was on at that time. He was a marvelous man, marvelous little guy.
And how were these programs used? Were they?
We had stations all over wherever American troops were, in Alaska, Far East, in China, when we can get into China, and of course the Western Pacific, New Guinea, and whatever.
And this kind of built you. Did anybody remember you from the Armed Forces when you came out then to get you started back in your career in Hollywood?
I didn't really have too much of a problem to get back into it. No, not really. But I don't know whether being in. Well, see, the head of the Armed Forces Radio Service was a very big Madison Avenue guy, Tom Lewis. This is Madison Avenue in uniform, we called ourselves the Hollywood Commandos. I had to get him to transfer me over to Saipan because I couldn't pay my bills at the Brown Derby.
It was rough duty in those days, wasn't it, to be in Hollywood during the war?
It was really rough, yes. We fought a very rough war. But I must say that I made up for all that over in Saipan.
Howard, I want to ask you about a program called Dear John. Do you remember that one?
Dear John was Welch's grape juice, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And there's Irene Rich. Now, here's a show. I just barely met Miss Rich, and I had a conflict, which all radio actors, radio people will understand in those days. You tried to get as many shows as you could because that's how you made your enough loot, And I had the regular job on the Gulf Screen Guild Theater, I believe. I was the guy that came on. I sang Conrad Nagel, Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, whoever was on, and sometimes I did a part in the drama. But anyway, I had to be there for that, right? So then I had to. I never really made the first rehearsal on Welch. I always got on Irene Rich's show. I just got there for the dress, and then we went right on the air. So I never really had much conversation with her. I was doing sort of a Jimmy Stewart character, which I've forgotten how to do, thank God.
As a matter of fact, you mentioned Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Do you think that we might be able to listen to something from Screen Guild?
Oh, you've got a little...
oh, yes, I have a few of those, and I'll try to find one with Howard doing the introduction, certainly. Dick,
I don't know whether that'll enrich us.
Olivia de Havilland, Robert Young, Charles Winninger.
The Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Your hosts, the director of the Star's own theater, Roger Pryor.
Good evening, everyone. Your neighborhood good Gulf dealer and the Gulf Oil Companies welcome you to the Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Tonight, your ticket to the Gulf Theater reads Olivia de Havilland, Robert Young, and Charles Winninger in My Love Came Back. Movie audiences voted this story one of the best romantic comedies of the season. Tonight, we present its radio premiere with a sparkling score by Oscar Bradley, his orchestra under the baton of Frank Tours. The place is New York City. The time, the present. And the story concerns three people. A most attractive young violinist named Amelia Cornell, who is a promising pupil at the Academy of Music. A young man named Tony Baldwin, who is general manager of the Monarch Musical Instrument Manufacturing Company. And a Mr. Julius Mallette, who is both owner of the Monarch Music Company and president of the Academy of Music.
Pardon me, Mr. Pryor.
Yes, sir, and who are you?
Who am I? You mean you don't know who I am? My card, sir.
Oh, thank you. Club Conga, 26 fascinating hostesses.
No, that's the wrong card. That's my dentist. Here.
Oh, thank you. Julius Mallette, president of the Academy of Music.
Yes, I just took that position recently, Mr. Pryor, and I believe it's a great thing to help young people, kids with talent, kids with dreams and hopes.
Wait a minute, sir. What about Amelia Cornell?
Amelia Cornell. Why, Amelia Cornell is a very talented young lady, a splendid student. My interest in her is purely fatherly. She's an artist. And what technique and what verve, what beauty, what leg. Amelia Cornell was one of the most talented young violinists we had at the Academy. It was for that reason that I felt it my duty as president of the Academy of Music to come to her. Yes, my dear. Sit down.
Thank you.
What is this I hear about your leaving the Academy?
Well, it isn't that I want to leave, Mr. Mallette, but I must earn some money. You see, I have responsibilities.
Oh, I never connected you with, how many responsibilities do you have, my dear?
2.
2? Is that so? How old are they?
Well, one is 6.
My, you hardly look old enough to have, how old is the other one?
47.
47?
My mother and my sister.
Oh, you had me worried for a minute. I thought you had a grown family. I don't think you should rush into this, Miss Cornell. No, indeed. I'm sure something will turn up so you can stay on here at the Academy as a student.
Well, I don't see how such a miracle could happen, but it's awfully nice of you to take this interest in my career, Mr. Mallette.
Oh, not at all, my dear. Now, don't worry. I'm sure everything's going to turn out all right.
Mr. Mallette.
Oh, yes, Miss Cornell.
What do you think? The miracle has happened. I just received a special scholarship award, a check for $100. It means I can stay on at the Academy.
Didn't I tell you everything would be all right? By the way, do you go to many concerts? You should, you know, for the sake of your career.
Oh, Mr. Mallette, I couldn't afford things like that.
Well, what a coincidence. I just happen to have here in my pocket a few tickets for the symphony, the opera, and 4 or 5 musical comedies, and those. And...
Why, Mr. Mallette, I don't know what to say.
Oh, now, my dear, not another word. Your musical education must not be neglected. We'll start off with the symphony concert tonight. May I come in, Tony?
Oh, hello, Mr. Mallette. Why, sure you can come in. You're the boss, remember?
Yes, very clever, Tony. I not only have an excellent general manager, but a comedian as well.
I don't get it. Well, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you dropped in, Mr. Millett. I wanted to ask you about some checks made out to a Miss Amelia Cornell.
Amelia? Amelia?
Cornell.
Oh, Cornell, yes. Delightful school. Used to play football there.
I'm talking about Amelia Cornell.
Oh, Amelia Cornell. Yes, she's a violinist at the academy, yes. And those checks are sort of a scholarship, a secret scholarship.
Mm-hmm. Secret from Miss Cornell or from Mrs. Millett?
Both.
We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the Golden Age of Radio with Dick Bertel and the recordings of Ed Corcoran. Brought to you by Burritt Mutual Savings Bank, serving Central Connecticut since 1889, and by WTIC.
This message about saving money is brought to you by the Big B, Burritt Mutual Savings Bank, the money place. Confused by all the ads about new, higher interest rates on savings accounts? Many people are. Some banks are advertising 5% as a top rate. Some are even advertising rates over 7% on special types of accounts. Well, these are the facts. Federal regulations control the amounts that financial institutions can pay you, and only thrift institutions like Burritt Mutual Savings Bank can pay you the maximum amounts controlled by law. For example, 5.25% is the new legal rate allowed on regular accounts at savings banks. That's the top rate allowed. No one can pay you more. Some banks can't pay you as much. To get all the facts, get to the Big B, Burritt Mutual Savings Bank, in New Britain, West Hartford, Glastonbury, Wethersfield and Rocky Hill, and now in Newington. Burritt Mutual Savings, the money place. Member FDIC.
Let's talk about Sam Spade. Mm-hmm. This is the show that most people remember, I think, first and foremost, and connect you, Howard Duff, with that show. How did it come about? When was it created? And, of course, we want to talk about our very dear friend, Bill Spear, who passed away recently and who was a guest on this show and who produced Sam Spade.
You bet he did. I suppose we should begin at the beginning. I hadn't been out of the Army too long, and they had this audition for this, what we thought was going to be a pretty good show. And everybody in town, all the so-called leading men, I guess, auditioned for it. And I was lucky. Apparently my whatever voice quality I had appealed to Bill and the sponsors, I suppose. And I got it anyway, and went on for practically scale, and but that didn't matter in those days. It was a good idea to do it, and the show kind of gradually began to take off, and we did it for about 5 years, I guess. First, we were on what was then known as the Red Network, which is now ABC, more or less, and then we were graduated to the Blue Network, which was NBC. And then we, for some reason or other, were shifted over to CBS, and I believe the last 2 or 3 years we're on CBS. Ed can check me if I'm not right on this.
No, I wouldn't do
You're
that.
You're the historian.
Well, I'm just thinking about Bill Spear as the producer of this show, and what did he lend?
Well, he was a marvelous. You've had him on, so I don't have to tell you what kind of a fascinating and warm, vital guy he was, and well, we in the final years, we used to rehearse. See, we were supposed to be there at 11:30 on a Sunday. I'd come in from Malibu. I was living in the colony then. And the first half hour, we were like a family. Everybody, we all worked together. Mostly, we had the same people on all the time. And Johnny McIntyre and his wife Jeanette Nolan, and name some others. Hans Conried.
Bill Conrad was on.
Elliot Lewis. Sure. Elliot Reed. Elliot's wife, then wife Kathy Lewis,
and June Havoc. We mustn't forget that she was on there.
And I was going to mention June and Kathy used to play a lot of the girls, most of the leading ladies. And the first half hour was always we hadn't seen each other, so there's a lot of gags, and so that was devoted to sort of a social time. Then we eventually got around to reading the script, and then Bill and I would start to rewrite it, which was fun, too.
Your secretary?
We had kind of a contest between the two of us. No, I said, "Look, Bill, this is pretty good here." And he says, "Well, look, I've got it already written down, Bill."
That's what it's going to be.
So it was kind of a friendly camaraderie, rivalry, whatever. But I think we loved each other.
The Adventures of Sam Spade, Detective.
Me, sweetheart.
Sam, how did it go?
It was the end, Effie, but the end.
Oh, Sam, not another one of those society things.
Depends on what you mean by society.
Well, you know, Sam, cafe society. Cocktails for two, hands across the table, making another old-fashioned, please.
Let's not lose our head, Effie. Nothing but double martinis, very dry, with 2 olives, sweetheart.
2 olives? Oh, Sam, isn't that overdoing it?
It was all overdone, sweetheart. That's what cracked it. Now, stay right where you are. I'll be right down to mix up my report on the dry martini caper. Get it?
Dashiell Hammett, America's leading detective fiction writer and creator of Sam Spade, the hard-boiled private eye, and William Spear, radio's outstanding producer-director of mystery and crime drama, join their talents to make your hair stand on end with the adventures of Sam Spade.
You look sober as an owl.
Wise as an owl, sober as a judge, F.
Oh. Well, the way you talked on the phone, I thought you drowned the shamrock, kissed the Black Betty, spliced the main brace, decorated the mahogany, made a Dutch bargain, or, in a word, gone to give a Chinaman a music lesson.
Effie, I wish you'd spend more time with Harper's Bazaar while I'm gone and less with the thesaurus of slang. Didn't know I could say that. Are you sober?
Well, I've been riding the choo-choo, drinking Adam's ale, and if you don't believe it, just ask me to walk a chalk.
Okay, heelsy-toesy, arms akimbo, eyes glazed.
Yes, Sam.
Now then, tip of the forefinger to the tip of the nose.
Oh, Sam, it makes me dizzy.
Dizzy Gillespie?
Dizzy go. Oh, Sam.
Exactly. And you are not sewn up, shagged, shellacked, shickered, stuccoed, tap-shackled, stiffo, or real crazy.
Well, you know best, Sam.
Good. Now try this one.
Yes, Pres.
Sitting posture, limbs cruciform.
What?
Cheesecake style.
Oh, Sam.
That's it. Now place the notebook. Just a little higher. Good. Yeah. Now apply the tip of the pencil to the top of the fool's cap and proceed viz.
Viz.
Lorraine Tuttle was
marvelous.
Yeah,
Lovely girl.
Your gal Friday.
I still see Lorraine quite a lot. She calls me and we kind of reminisce a little bit, cry a little bit, and laugh a little.
Howard, was Sam Spade a departure in drama, or at least as far as the image
I think so.
of a private detective is concerned on radio?
I think it was probably the first program of its kind that attempted to do something more than just the slam bang boom boom. He was a character. He was a definite character who had a great eye for the girls. Every time we'd always open the show, you could hear the bottles clinking and the thing, and he'd pour himself a snort, before he'd do his dictation to Effie. And the whole attitude, I don't think had ever been explored the way we did, the way that Bill really brought about, because this is his conception, and his production was impeccable, as I think you will agree, Ed. He paid a great deal of attention not only to the stories, but and to what we said. See, what we said was terribly important. He had his big hero was Dickens. Did he ever tell you that?
No, I don't think he did.
No, he tried to get a Dickensian feeling about the interesting people that we had. He insisted to the writers that we get people, that were really interesting, and I suppose Dickensian is the best thing I can think of.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak to the proprietor, please.
There's 3 of them. Mr. Murphy, Mr. Silveria, and Mr. Brennis. Take your pick.
Murphy will do.
He's out.
How about Silveria?
Tied up with Mr. Brennis.
Where are they tied up?
First door to your right. That's the main studio. Do not enter if the red light is on.
Heaven forfend.
No. Al, will you let me do it my way? No, there is no doing it.
I have seen photographers at work in my time, but not like this. I saw now why they were tied up. They were fit to be tied. In the middle of the studio was a mass of equipment that looked like a cross between the Palomar telescope and an atom smasher, with what seemed to be a stretched-out accordion on the bottom. All of it pointed at something lit up by floodlights on a small table. When I got up close, I found out what it was. Brennis and Silveria were photographing a plate of pork and beans.
Now, for crying out loud, look at that pork. What is the matter with that pork?
What?
What's the matter with it? It just lies there.
What do you expect it to do, Chemmy?
Excuse me, fellas.
When did we hire you?
You didn't. I only wanted to...
don't pay any attention to him,
not.
John. Now, come on, focus down.
Focus. Now, what's the use? Why waste the shot? You know what he said? The pork's got to have get up and go.
Get up and go.
It's got to look sucking, and it's got to look married to those beans.
What do you want me to do? Sprinkle it with orange sauce?
Look, fellas, I really don't want to interrupt.
You're no good, Silveri. You know what they're going to run under the shot, don't you? Nussbaum's New England pork and beans, married in the can.
Can I be best man?
What? Okay, what do you want?
I'm only Sam Spade, a private detective, trying to locate this girl here.
What girl?
Ever seen her?
Sure.
Where?
Well, this is our shot. Look, you remember, Al, the cheesecake job the other night? Look at this.
Oh, yeah.
Cheesecake job?
Down at the railroad.
Yeah, that was for Norby's nifty nylon.
You mean this girl's a model?
No. She walked in front of the camera at just the wrong time and loused up the shot. We had to shoot it over.
Yeah, we had a model with a pair of Norby's nylons on, see? Well-known brand of stocking, and the idea was to stand her up next to a train coming down at the depot there.
Then what we tried to do was get a shot of her fixing a guard, a leg guard, you know.
Yeah.
Surefire.
With a lot of admiring glances from the crowd.
From the crowd. Brand new idea. Yeah. Real train, real station, real people.
Documentary.
Yeah. So Al sets up the camera, and the model makes with the garter, and I whistle to get the crowd's eye, and we set off the flash. But the dame here walked in front of the camera.
However, it was not her fault.
No, it's an awful nice kid. We told her to drop by, we'd give her the shot.
Great. Got any other copies of it?
Well, I don't know. It'll take us a while to check the file.
Oh, it's
well, look, do that, will you? And if you find anything, here's my phone number.
Yeah. Now, as I was saying about that pork, John,
again with a
your
pork.
Pork is your pork. There is nothing you can do to glamorize it.
I glamorize the number of pork.
That's an excerpt from The Cheesecake Caper of Sam Spade, and I think that you hear the quality of the writing. You get an idea of what the character looks like. You get a visual impression of the character. He lives. We'll be back in a moment.
This message about saving money is brought to you by the Big B, Burritt Mutual Savings Bank, the money place. You've heard about the new higher rates on savings accounts. Maybe you've seen ads that mention 7% or more interest on savings certificates. Well, a savings certificate is a special account. 2.5 years is the minimum term on the new 6 3/4% certificates. At the Big B, Burritt Mutual, they work like this. Deposit $1,000 in one of these certificates and leave it on deposit, and you'll earn even more than 6 3/4%. That's because Burritt pays you interest continuously, and the interest earns interest too. So the actual yield at maturity comes to 7.08% at the Big B. That's the straight story, the facts. That's what you'll get at any office of the Big B in New Britain, West Hartford, Glastonbury, Wethersfield and Rocky Hill, and now in Newington. Member FDIC.
This is Dick Bertel along with Ed Corcoran here on the Golden Age of Radio, and our guest tonight is actor Howard Duff. And we're about to hear another example from the Sam Spade series, which shows, I think, how skillfully drawn were the characters in that particular program. This is a show called The Dry Martini Caper, about a not particularly bereaved widow. And incidentally, the first voice you're going to hear is that of William Conrad, who is about to be shot.
You drive a car?
Yeah, you mean one man drives all that?
Yeah, I see him, that rascally chauffeur of mine. Sleep in the back seat. All right, come out of there, you.
Hey, watch I was behind him and a little to the right. The shock of the rapid-fire 30-caliber slugs lifted him off his feet and knocked him against me. I went down under his 300 pounds of dead weight. By the time I rolled him off of me and got up, the gunman had jumped out of the limousine and into a gray sedan that was double parked alongside. In the welter of traffic on the boulevard, I didn't dare risk throwing a shot after him, but I did get the first 3 numbers of the license plate before it buried itself in the heavy stream of AM commuters. That's when the air changed from exhaust fumes to something out of a Persian garden. I turned and looked for the first time into your Nile green eyes, Netta, and saw you twisting a handkerchief in your pale hands I might have loved beside the Shalimar, but on Marina Boulevard they looked like hysterics dead ahead.
Who did it? You saw him. Don't lie to me. Why don't they come with the ambulance? Why are all those people standing around there staring at me? Make them go away.
Calm down.
Make them go away. I
Say,
can't stand
Now,
it.
stop it, will you? That's better. Now, come on over here. Who are you, his wife?
Yes, and it was all my fault. This is the end.
I called Ernie out the window and asked him to come upstairs. I wanted him to return some lingerie. They sent the wrong color, peach.
Yeah. Who's Ernie?
He's our chauffeur. I was looking for the exchange slip when we heard the shots. Is he dead this time?
Yeah, they'll go to pieces.
Poor Gordon, he had so many enemies. He didn't drink well, you know. People dropped us like flies.
Why aren't you and Ernie upstairs getting your alibis shaped up?
Oh, please, I can't face the questions just yet. Would it be legal if I just avoided them till I can collect myself?
I don't know about legal, but it might be smart.
Where can we talk?
What do you suggest?
Well, there's a little cocktail lounge up on Lombard where Ernie and I all... it's just around the corner.
Very handy. Let's go.
Just a portion of the dry martini caper. Howard, was Sam Spade a departure from the usual detective depicted on radio?
Yes, I don't think anything of this kind had been done because we had a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff, and I used to do a little ad-libbing now and then if I felt like it, and it was kind of fun.
Do you see Sam Spade portrayed with other names today on television? Is he
I see him?
Yeah, is he the prototype of today's private eye, let's say?
You mean things like Columbo? Or, well, I suppose there's some of Spade in him, yeah, I guess. Maybe, Hammett, after all, has got to get a little credit for this, too.
That's
He's
right.
the guy that created this character. I must say that we didn't... I started out, I suppose, trying to do a kind of a Bogart guy, and then I said, I'm going to do this my way. And so I did. And the Sam Spade that I saw in the Maltese Falcon was just too dour a man, too much of the time. And I just made him lighter, that's all, and had more fun with it.
Ed, we've got to hear a Sam Spade episode about here.
Yes, this one features June Havoc, and I thought we could talk a little more about her role in this show after we hear this, but this is with her as the leading lady, and of course Howard, and I don't know the exact year, but I would say it's probably midway in the series, this particular episode, Dick.
Red Gillis was a raw-boned folk from the border country. He was a stranger to Bumpus Hell, but he was no stranger to trouble. He jogged his Pinto down the narrow main street, not liking what he saw, and reined up in front of the sheriff's office. He dismounted and slapped the trail dust off his Levi's. Then he hitched up his gun belt and ambled inside. He looked at the heavy-shouldered, blue-jowled man behind the desk, and he didn't like what he saw. Neither did the sheriff, Rance Blaggett. State your business. I can do it better than that. State your business and get out, he snarled. Red smiled thinly and drawled, I'm looking for my brother. And what be your name outside of Red? Here, I can do that better than that. And what be your name outside of Red? Red Gillis's hand slid toward one of the six-shooters as silently as the sun coming up over the butte. Gillis, he sneered. Red Gillis from the Tonto Rim. That's pretty good. The sheriff's muscles tightened like steel springs and pulled him erect. Ain't no Tonto Rimmer welcome hereabouts in Bumpus Hell, he cursed. That was real good. And then the slap of 4 hands on leather was followed by the simultaneous roar of 4 6-guns. Hey, wait a minute, the sheriff...
I know they're in there.
Well, who is it? The sheriff is just...
Mr. Spade. Miss Kelly next door.
Right in the most exciting part.
Mr. Spade, now see here. I won't take no for an answer. It wouldn't be neighborly.
What is it, Mrs. Kelsey?
Never you mind, come along. What are you up to here, anyway?
Who, me? Oh, nothing. I'm just relaxing with an apple and a good book,
I
that's
don't
all.
see no apple, and the only reading matter I see is some western trash.
Trash?
Now, come on. There's trouble on the 3rd floor.
Well, there's trouble in Bumpus Hell.
Don't just swear at me.
I'm not...
I know my duty, and I know your duty. Now, come on! Move
Ouch! Okay, let go my ear. And that dandy, so help me, is how it started. Effie had just read a book called How to Relax, and it said there that Western stories were relaxing, and that's how I happened to be at home at 10 p.m., writing herd on a copy of Sheriff and Outlaw, rip-roaring adventures of the Old West. But Bumpus Hell hath no fury like my neighbor, Mrs. Kelsey. I left Red Gillis and the sheriff face to face and vice versa, eyes flashing and guns ablaze, and followed her meekly up to the 3rd floor.
Shut up, you crying, stuck me up your feet. Sorry to hear that. Been at it for 3 hours they have. Won't be a stick of furniture left in the room, less than there's top.
You speak to them?
Did I speak to them? You see this lump? No, here, under my transformation.
Oh, well, why didn't you call a cop?
Well, it wouldn't be neighborly. It's me that did. You see this lump?
Yeah, you showed it to me. Put your wig back on, I'll see what I can do.
And tell them about my lump. It's evidence.
Yeah, put it back. Hey, open up.
I would not go back with you if you was the last man on the other
Hey, open up.
Have it your own way. If I catch you with that swear again, I'll tear your head off. No, you had you boy, you rotter, you cheap grifter, you. Will you scram out of here before I'm forced to seek the assistance of a couple of flatties? Do not try anything fancy behind my back, you big slob. From now on, you and me is strictly on the cool beady. Well, you on principle. Hey, let go of me.
Don't throw it.
Hey, wait a minute. Don't I remember you from someplace?
No, I'm only being neighborly. Why did you beat up on kind, nice Mrs. Kelsey?
That is a gross falsehood. I did not lay a hand on the old wag. It was that odious stinker, Joe Donegan, who was just left. And you can tell him, as from me, that I'm extremely unimpressed with his cheap threats to rub me out, and that I intend to continue on seeing Mr. Hobson or any other Johns which I care to.
That's pretty good singing.
Oh.
Well, you better tell him that yourself. I don't imagine I'll be seeing him.
You won't? Hey, wait a minute. Who are you, anyway?
Just another tenant. I live downstairs.
Oh, well, now I recall whom you are. You are that Seamus, which lives on the second floor rear.
Shamus, we call it in the radio.
Seamus, would you care to come in and discuss a certain matter?
Well, thanks. Another time. I got to get back to Bumpus' health.
Whoever she is, let her cool her heels for a few moments.
No, you don't understand.
This
Bumpus'
is an
health.
urgent matter which I would like to hash over right now and without further delay.
Well,
May I invite you in for a straight slug?
Well, okay, but just one. In a glass.
Let's make yourself comfy. Now, say when.
Just up to the lipstick mark.
Here you are. Well, now to make a long story short, Mrs. Spade, my name is Rosemary Fell, which remains my stage name, notwithstanding the circumstance. But I am legally married to that barnacle which has just dusted this joint. Now, being as you are in the detective business...
Now, wait a minute.
Kindly permit me to finish, honey.
Sorry, sweetheart.
I'm not the type to jaw about my troubles just to pass the time of day.
I'm sure you are.
I am an actress.
I knew that.
And although I'm low in funds, due to being between jobs right now, on account of that knothead making a scene in the last joint at which I worked... Cheap ginger ale. Just to show you how the breaks fall, Mr. Spade, Belita Wilkerson, who just happens to be about the biggest talent agent in this city, if you have the time,
I'm impressed.
phoned me on the telephone and arranged an audition. She also advanced me the sum of 100 clams,
100?
which I will pay you to put the B on that dog, Joe Donegan, the rat.
Now, which is he? What do you mean, put the B on?
Listen, Sam, that grifter has got a record as long as my arm. And what I have got on him is longer than his arm.
Please.
In short, I should like him thrown into the can so that I can feel safe to sing on him.
Look, Rosemary, so you had a fight with Joe. You're sore. You want to pay him off. Now,
Right.
why don't you just wait until morning and see how you feel
Sam,
then?
listen to me. If that knuckle duster remains at large, I will be feeling no pain. Now, I know that from my flamboyant manner, you'd never guess it. But that is only the actress in me. In actuality, that flea intends to do me in.
Oh, now, come, Rosemary.
What? You disagree?
Well, now, really, Rosemary.
Why, you big pain in the neck.
Rosemary.
Drinking my... Pour that back in the bottle. Come on, put it back in the bottle.
Well, I'll be going now. Only trying to be neighborly. Well, back to Bumpus' health.
Sam Spade. And I'm sure that brings back a lot of pleasant memories for people.
My hair is still standing on end, by the way.
Well, June Havoc appeared quite regularly on the program, of course.
Kathy Lewis and June Havoc did most of the leading ladies.
Well, he was romancing her at that time. Did that show up in his choice of roles and everything like that? It was very touching story.
I think maybe they weren't married when she first
No,
came
they
on
weren't.
the show.
He was courting her, and that was his way of making an
forgot.
impression upon her. He was a caster in all these various roles, unbilled most of the time, by the way.
Oh, no, yeah, I guess so. No, I was the only guy that got
you got the star billing, and everybody else
I
was
had
just,
to fight like mad for that, believe me. Well, that's a whole other story. We won't go into that.
Howard, it must have opened up new doors for you, the role of Sam Spade.
I guess it did, yeah. It was a popular show. And while I don't know whether it directly, I don't think it directly had anything to do with my getting into the moving picture business. But,
well, you were a big name before you ever made your first movie.
well, I don't know whether I was a big name. I was known only, by...
Only by half the
Only
company.
from Sam Spade, yeah. My billing on the first show was and introducing Howard Duff Radio's Sam Spade, which always annoyed me because I wanted, not that I was knocking Sam Spade, but I felt that I'd just like to have it just Howard Duff. It used to kind of annoy me. I realize now that it was, kind of a compliment that people always called me Sam,
I think they still do.
No.
There's another guy, a man, I should say, that played a big role in your life. That was Mark Hellinger.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little about that part of your career?
Very briefly, Mark was the guy that put me into pictures. He, I guess, according to Ida, my wife, Ida Lupino, he had said to her, he says, geez, there's this guy that's playing this show, this Spade. He says, we got a part I think is going to be good for him, but I don't know what the hell he looks like. And she happened to have met me. So anyway, they had some kind of a bet. And he says, he's probably, about 5'4" with acne or something. And I was a little taller than that and not too much acne. Anyway, I met Mark, and he put me in the picture, and I was kind of his protege, along with Burt Lancaster at that time. And we went on to do Naked City, and unfortunately Mark died shortly before actually the picture was completely edited.
And that was
he was a very young man, as far as I'm concerned.
Early
44.
44. And that created a sensation too, I guess, because it was something different in the way of a motion picture.
Well,
so
I often wonder how my career would have gone had he survived, because he was really definitely on my side.
I was going to ask Howard, were you married to Ida at the time you were doing Sam Spade? And
no.
If so, did she ever appear on the show?
No. I didn't. Actually, I used to go with her girlfriend, strangely enough, and I met her down in Newport, where she was living on a yacht with a girlfriend, and all I can tell you was that it was instant dislike. And I didn't really see her again until we did a picture at Universal, and I knew, that she was not too crazy about me. So I sent her, a whole bunch of roses or something with the opening day. And that kind of started things off on the right track. And what can I tell you? We ended up married.
Oh, beautiful.
Did you continue your radio career after you got into the films, Howard, to any extent?
Well, I was doing Spade, of course. I think that was all I did, unless it was a Lux Radio Theater.
Inasmuch as Bill Spear produced and directed Sam Spade and was also the producer of Suspense, Howard, did you do any of the Suspense series?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did quite a few of those, as I remember. Once I got to know Bill, and he was kind of like that. If he liked you, you worked. They weren't really paying me that much so that I should just specialize on Spade. So I had to do other things. But when we readjusted my contract,
they got a scale, huh?
Can we bring back a Suspense, Ed?
Yeah, this one I do have, Dick. This is a house in Cypress Canyon, and this is with Hans Conried and the late Robert Taylor, and also Kathy Lewis. So it's quite a cast, and you're right in the beginning here. In this one of the best ever done of the series. This is a very well acclaimed part of it.
Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Robert Taylor in The House in Cypress Canyon, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Merry Christmas, Jerry. How's the real estate business?
Kind of early with your greeting, aren't you, Sam?
Well, I got to get them in sometime. I may not see you again until next Christmas.
This real estate racket gets any crazy, I'll be dead by next Christmas. I'm glad you could get up here, though, Sam.
What's on your mind, Jerry?
You'll probably shoot me when you hear it, Sam, because I'm probably nuts. But doggone it, you're a detective and you're my pal, and I just have to tell somebody.
You sound like it's serious.
That's just it. I don't know what it is, Sam, but... Now, listen, you know we're agents for a group of houses up in Cypress Canyon. Those places that were started before the war and never got finished.
Oh, yeah.
All I got in were the foundations, just concrete and a couple of beams. Well, they've been finished now. In fact, I'm putting up the fall rent on the last of them today.
So what do you want? Police protection from the mob?
Listen, Sam, this house that I'm talking about, it's got a number now, 2256. But before, when the men went back to work on it about 3 months ago, well, they just started when the foreman on the job brought me a shoebox that he'd found up on a beam. And this box had what do you call it, a manuscript in it, a story, kind of, all written out.
Yeah.
Well, he gave me the thing. I read it. I didn't think much about it. I put it in my desk. But the other day, and I happened to drive by there. I saw the number on the house and what the house looked like. I thought of this manuscript. Well, I don't like it. That's all. There's something funny about it.
What's funny about it?
Well, mind you, this thing was found in an unfinished house in Cypress Canyon. House was only just started building.
All right.
Well, listen, Sam, I want to read it to you if you got the time, and you'll see what I mean.
All right, shoot.
Now, here's how it begins. To whom it may concern, my reasons for setting down on paper what follows.
Well, it was one of those things. The real estate agent had just been authorized to rent the place by mail that morning, and he'd hardly had time to look at it himself and put up his sign when we drove up. It was just an ordinary little California house about halfway up Cypress Canyon, number 2256. Just an ordinary, undistinguished little house. It wasn't the best place in the world. It was small and badly built, but what would you have done? We took it with as little inspection as that. It was the Saturday before Christmas. And the very same evening, we were struggling up the steps from the road with suitcases and boxes and armloads of clothes and all the endless bric-a-brac that people collect and never know they have until they move. Ellen began unpacking, and I began moving things around and taking the worst of the pictures off the wall, doing all the little things that everybody does when they move into a new place and try to give it something of their own
Don't be
personality.
such a sourpuss. You know, it's a roof over our heads for Christmas. That's more than we ever thought we'd get, isn't it? Jim, I think red curtains are what we need, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, just at least for the living room. Anyway, the ones in there now have just got to come down.
Yeah, I suppose they do.
What do you think of red?
Well, I guess it's all...
Jim.
That's some tomcat.
Jim, it sounded in the house.
Oh, now, how could it be in the house, Ellen? We've been over every inch of the house.
Except that closet.
Now, how could a cat or anything else be in the closet that's been locked up for over a year?
I don't know.
It's probably under the house. A wildcat or mountain lion or something. I hear they have them in California.
Jim, I don't like
Well,
it.
neither do I like it, but there's nothing we can do about it tonight.
Well, maybe we ought to call somebody, the police or some
don't
neighbor.
be silly, Ellen. You act like a kid. Come on, let's go to bed, huh? I don't know what time it was, perhaps an hour, or perhaps only a half hour later. My mind was in that hazy borderland between sleep and a dream that's still part of consciousness. Then I was awake. Ellen, are you all right?
Yes.
Did you have a nightmare or something?
No. I heard it, too.
Well, that didn't sound like any cat.
Put on the light.
Yeah.
It seemed to be out there, Jim, in the house somewhere.
I'm going to look into this.
Jim, you be careful.
Come on. Where's my shotgun?
In the den, I think. Jim.
What?
There's something wet
What? Wet?
running from under the closet door. Sticky.
Ellen, don't touch it.
I had to. Jim, it's blood.
An excerpt from The House in Cypress Canyon on Suspense. Someday I'm going to find out how that story ended, incidentally. Starring Robert Montgomery and Kathy Lewis with our guest, Howard Duff. We'll be back in a moment.
This message about saving money is brought to you by the Big B, Burritt Mutual Savings Bank, the money place. You've heard about the new higher rates on savings accounts. Maybe you've seen ads that mention 7% or more interest on savings certificates. Well, a savings certificate is a special account. 2.5 years is the minimum term on the new 6 3/4% certificates. At the Big B, Burritt Mutual, they work like this. Deposit $1,000 in one of these certificates and leave it on deposit, and you'll earn even more than 6 3/4%. That's because Burritt pays you interest continuously, and the interest earns interest too. So the actual yield at maturity comes to 7.08% at the Big B. That's the straight story, the facts. That's what you'll get at any office of the Big B in New Britain, West Hartford, Glastonbury, Wethersfield and Rocky Hill, and now in Newington. Member FDIC.
Well, you know, Howard, the interesting part about your appearing on this program is that we don't have to relegate your radio work to the past any longer. You're involved in something rather new and exciting. I'm talking about Hollywood Radio Theater.
Yeah, that's the Hollywood Radio Theater that Elliot Lewis, my old friend and cohort for many years, he feels that there is an audience for radio drama, more or less as we used to do it, and possibly with a few new added stereophonic effects. And so we did a show. It's each week they're going to take one particular book, I believe, and dramatize it.
How did it feel
to
get back behind a microphone?
Again.
Yeah.
This is like I'd never been away. Yeah. And, of course, doing it with Elliot, he's so easygoing, and he knows exactly. He's so well, he's so together, everything. We did it the easy way, and I think the right way.
What about writers? What about sound effects people? Where have they all disappeared to? How did you get this thing together again to work?
It's amazing. We had everybody on the show, I guess, all the old radio people that I've ever known, with the exception of Lorene. I don't know why. How come Lorene Tuttle wasn't on it? But anyway, Mary Jane Croft, Elliot's wife. And all kinds of people were on it.
It's amazing. It really is. The fact that you can find the sound effects people. I guess the sound effects.
So I suppose every radio actor that you get on here will always say probably the same thing. I hate to be trite, but it is so true. We just didn't know, how lucky we were, because here you are. You're able to exercise your imagination and assume all these kinds of characters with no lights, no makeup, and the words are right there in front of you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, let's hope Hollywood Radio Theater is every bit as successful as Sam Spade.
Well, Elliot swears that it's going to make it, and I don't argue with Elliot. He's a pretty sincere guy.
Howard Duff, thank you very much for being with us tonight here.
Well, thank you for having me. You brought back a lot of memories, and good ones.
And until next time, this is Dick Bertel.
This is Ed Corcoran.
Good night.
The Golden Age of Radio with Dick Bertel and the recordings of Ed Corcoran has been brought to you by Burritt Mutual Savings Bank, serving Central Connecticut since 1889. With the engineering and technical assistance of Bob Shirego, The Golden Age of Radio is produced and edited by Brian Hartnett. This is Norm Peters.
Camel Cigarettes present Benny Goodman's Swing School, the Tuesday evening rally of everybody everywhere who gets a lift from the new pulsating music of youth, swing.
The Lux Radio Theater brings you Rita Hayworth and Charles Corbin in This Love of Ours. Ladies and gentlemen, your producer, Mr.
The makers of Instant Chase and Sanborn Coffee present the Charlie McCarthy Show. This is Ken Carpenter, ladies and gentlemen, greeting you from Hollywood, California. On behalf of Edgar Bergen, Charlie McCarthy, Mortimer Stern, Don Amici, and Marcia Hunt, and the Bickersons by Bill Rapp. Play